have to be honest, I didn't care much about the plight of Palestinians before this, but Alhamdulillah, this tragedy led me to dig up more and educate myself about the sufferings that the Palestinians went through for decades. One of many is the uprooting of the olive trees by the occupation to make the lives of the Palestinians as miserable as possible. We'll understand why the olive trees are sacred to the Palestinians and why are olives mentioned as blessed fruit in the Quran. And quantum physics comes into play.
Da 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 da. Da 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 da.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. I'm sure you guys have seen this. Mahfouda Shtaye hugging her beloved olive tree when the Israeli authorities wanted to chop off her tree. My heart breaks every time I see this video of Mahfouda hugging her tree. She must be like 60 years old, like my late granny. She must have worked hard her whole life nurturing her beloved olive trees, and for them to be just taken down like that by the authorities. There are over 10 million olive trees covering 50% of Palestine. Like Mahfouda, 80,000 to 100,000 families depend on olive tree farming as a crucial source of livelihood. Since 1967, more than 800,000 Palestinians' olive trees have been illegally uprooted by the Israeli authority or settlers, for most part for their land expropriation, rest of the time just out of spite, to bully the Palestinians and make their lives miserable. The coordinated settlers attack and uproot with bulldozers, burn down trees, and even chemically poison the tree. According to United Nations, the confrontation often involves violence, physical assault, vandalism, and theft. And this attacks heightens especially during harvest season between October and November. If not attacked, Palestinians are often restricted by the Israeli authorities from accessing their farmlands because it's too close to the separation wall or the settlements. Who asked them to build settlements near to their farmlands in the first place, huh? Do you guys know that olive trees takes about 20 years to grow, another 20 years to bear fruit? Olive trees native to the Levant survive through drought and harsh conditions lasting for thousands of years, passed down from generation to generation. It's a family heritage, priceless heirloom. Thus, the olive trees are a symbol of resistance and attachment of Palestinians to their land. It's also a big part of Palestine culture that the harvest season is called Palestine wedding because it's just as merry. Schools even get 2 days off to join in the festivities. And they give some of the fruits on the tree. For those who doesn't own a land and can't partake in the harvest, they can still reap the benefits. It's a time of togetherness and giving. It's generous, right? Olives are blessed fruit mentioned in the Quran. Olives are superfood hyper-packed with nutrients rich in vitamin E and other powerful antioxidants. Olives also contain high amount of minerals like iron, copper, sodium, and calcium. But that's not even the best part of it. Notice how Allah mentions olive oil specifically in this infamous light upon light verse. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. His light is like a niche in which there is a lamp. The lamp is in a crystal. The crystal is like a shining star, lit from the oil of a blessed olive tree, located neither to the east nor to the west. That is to say, the olive gets well distributed sunlight throughout the day. And notice here, whose oil would almost glow even without being touched by fire. Light upon light, Allah guides whoever He wills to His light. And Allah sets forth parables for humanity, for Allah has perfect knowledge of all things. Allah is talking about lights here, and suddenly mention of olive oil seems a little bit out of place, isn't it? No. Nothing in Quran is inadequate, in excess, or out of place. In 2009, NASA Goddard captured these global maps of land plant fluorescence through special instruments via satellites, reddish glow known as chlorophyll fluorescence. Basically, leaves absorb sunlight for their photosynthesis process and radiate back a small amount of light at a different wavelength at the red end of the light spectrum back into the atmosphere as a byproduct of photosynthesis. This radiated light is so small, about 1% of sunlight absorbed, that it is not visible to the naked eye. Just like plants, olive oil too emits similar red glow. Unlike majority of the oils, olive oil is a product of the fruit, not of the seed. Thus, olive oil contains that green plant pigment chlorophyll in it, just as leaves do. Say you put a glass of olive oil under green laser or UV light, the olive oil would glow in red. This can be explained by a phenomenon in quantum physics known as the Coherent Light Superposition. Coherent light is light whose photons, or light wave particles, oscillate at the same frequency and whose wavelengths are in phase. It will travel in a straight line forever, as it won't diffuse with distance, like laser lights. Non-coherent lights, on the other hand, diffuse over distance, like flashlight. But what is superposition? Let's understand them in the next step.
We know that two solid objects, like two people, can't occupy the same space at the same time. But mechanical waves are not matter. They are displacements of matter that carry energy. So two waves can occupy the same space. And when two waves combine in this way, it is called superposition. When there are two disturbances near one another and their respective series of waves overlap, this is called an interference pattern, and we can see how the regions where the waves intersect generate a completely new pattern. This is easy to see with waves in the water, but sound and light waves also do this. There are a few different things that can happen when interference occurs. Say two individual wave pulses are traveling towards each other, and they have the same amplitude. When these meet, the amplitudes at each point will be added together to produce the respective points on the resultant wave. So there will be a moment where there is one wave with twice the amplitude. Then the two waves continue in the direction they were moving in. Each wave maintains its own characteristics before and after the interference. When a resultant wave has greater amplitude than the individual waves, like this case, this is called constructive interference. Now let's say the pulses are on opposite sides of the equilibrium position. Again, according to the superposition principle, we will add the amplitudes to get the resultant wave. But in this case, the two amplitudes add to zero, so the resultant wave will be as though there is no wave at all. Then the waves continue along their trajectories. This kind of interference, where the resultant wave has a smaller amplitude than the individual waves, is called destructive interference. And if the resultant wave has an amplitude of zero, like this example, it is called complete destructive interference. This concept applies to periodic waves as well. First, we can consider two sine waves that are precisely aligned. They are said to be exactly in phase. We can add the amplitudes at every single point, and the result is a similar looking wave with twice the amplitude, due to constructive interference, because the crests align with the crests and the troughs align with the troughs. But then, if we shift one of these by half its wavelength, now the crests of one align with the troughs of another. And at every single point on the x-axis, these waves will add up to zero. They are said to be exactly out of phase, and this will be an example of complete destructive interference.
Olive oil emits coherent light, as mentioned, with wavelengths in the red spectrum, hence the faint red glow. The faint red glow of the olive oil superposition with another coherent light, the green laser or UV light, produces an amplified red glow, now visible to the naked eye. Just like plants, if we are fed with all the right ingredients, we'll be alive and emitting a light from within us. When this light is positive, emitting positive aura, seeking guidance, readiness to be guided, then our light will be superpositioned in phase with the light from Allah, His guidance, and our light will be amplified. It will glow. How beautiful and incomparable is Allah's metaphor, not to mention how astonishing is that this quantum physics analogy was mentioned in the Quran 1,400 years ago, when quantum physics was only discovered in recent centuries. One verse. What?